So today we're going to be working with folds again, and this is a fold that's created by, hanging a towel or something like that. Any sort of garment, really. You take a garment, you put it on a peg or what have you, and it hangs in a specific way. For example, it will hang like, you know, with gravity from one tension point, so it just takes one spot and it hangs from there, and gravity takes care of the rest, and then you have a bunch of folds and other such wrinkles in it. So that's what we're looking at today. So basically, to start this work, I do pretty much the same thing all the time. I use a metal stylus and I go over the artwork lines, and I just go over the whole thing and outline it, and that leaves an indentation in the wood, and then in that indentation I just use a pencil and go over it. So it's pretty simple to copy the artwork right over pretty quickly. So that's already done now, and then normally what I do is I have to cut in around the object that we're going to work on, and create space that will allow me to start working on that. So what I've done today is I've left it completely whole so that I can do that work with you guys. And what's going to help me do that work are some tools that I recently got. I actually got yesterday, and these are cut saw bits that are sold by Bare Wood Supply, and they're really well priced, and I got all of them. So all of the ones that will fit in the Marathon Micromotor. The Marathon Micromotor is a rotary tool, and it's high precision, high RPMs, and the 1/8 shank burrs fit in this perfectly. So I'm really happy with not only this tool, but getting the cut saws. So I worked with them yesterday. They're just fantastic. They're just, I can't believe how cool they are. They just remove material like it wasn't even there. So don't let it get away from you. So basically, to start this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the artwork and create a small stop cut around the entire bit of artwork with a skew chisel. And these are my Schaaf Chisels that are also sold by Bare Wood Supply at good prices as well. So I'll try to leave the artwork and keep you guys in a position. Actually, I'll move you down a little lower so that you can see better. Hopefully I can still see you guys' comments. So move you there. Should give you a little more view. Okay, so I'll try to also keep this in the right spot. That will warn me if I'm not doing it. Okay, so right, using the skew chisel, this is a Schaaf 1S 8mm, and it's really just a matter of creating some small stop cuts around the edges. They don't have to be perfect, they don't have to follow perfectly, they just need to stop my cuts when I get into those areas. If you have any questions, just let me know. I've done a lot of folded works lately. I did a scroll and banner, and I did a pennant last time 2 weeks ago, and of course I finished it up on Instagram the Sunday after. So today I'm not sure what I'll do next time, but today I wanted to get in garment folds. So as you can see from the other works that I do a lot of fantasy work, and this sort of work is, you know, all fantasy, old medieval costume style stuff, you know, armor and cloaks and other sort of things like that. So that kind of work requires me to recognize where folds go in clothing and other such garments. So this is something I do a lot, so happy to help you learn that. So it's going to get a little bit noisy, but this guy's pretty quiet, not really noisy. And I'm going to start working with this cut saw bit, and it's a great one. It's the roughest they have, which is extreme, very coarse, and this guy has some super pointy, deep cutted troughs in it that allow me to really get into the wood. And as specifically said earlier, I normally just cut around it. I pre-cut so we can just get right to work, but I want to show you how cool this tool is. So you just take it, you put it in your micro motor, snap it closed, and it's locked in there. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to create room around the artwork for me to work. Alright, I might need to do a few of these turns, but we'll start off slow. That's the other thing I should mention, that the tool, this cut saw bit, says not to exceed 25,000 RPMs. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so just a few cuts to start. Get the feel of the cuts. That just, wow, removes material amazingly. I can probably go up a little higher. Alright, let's have a look at that real quick. Alright, so that's enough to start working, but I generally do take it down quite a bit more, so we'll do some of that in a bit. So right now you can see what I'm trying to achieve. So really what I need to do is cut around the artwork so that I have a place to work. So what I'll do is I'll create a little more depth on the edge here, and again it's a crop approximate so that you can just really, you know, start working. This block is a basswood 3/4 inch thick block, and I just picked it up at the local hardwoods lumber yard where I live. So if you have one of those, check them out, and they might have basswood for you. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to hit it again with this and be quick about it so we can start working. Okay, that made short work of a lot of cutting. We just hit this with air real quick. Okay, so now what I need to do is to take off these sides here, and I'll do that with a typical gouge. This is a number 5 8mm, and I'm really just going to just take the material off. Come on, baby. Here's your handy mallet. This is a Schaaf mallet, also sold at Bear Woods, and we'll just take this off. Let me get a clamp real quick. Give me a second. Come on, baby. Release. Alright. That's not working as great as I'd like. Normally I have this on a different bench that just hacks this material off. So we'll just get it off at all costs. Not terribly pretty, but it doesn't need to be, because you really just need room to work. You'll note that I always carve with the non-dominant dominant method, which is to thrust and give power with your dominant hand, and then guide and steer with your non-dominant hand. And if you do it that way, then you're pretty assured that you won't cut yourself or anyone around you, because you always have good control of the, you know, super sharp tool. Clear up a little debris with a veiner here. Alright, and the bottom here, just take a bit of it off. I normally just take all this off before we start, but I wanted to show you how cool the cut sole bits work. And how I normally create space around the artwork that I have. Okay, so now let's look. So basically we have our artwork that we copied from here, and we want to just make it look like that. So we have to look in here and say, okay, where are our depths and where should I start, right? So like with any of the ones that I do, you just look for obvious things first. Maybe some things to beginners aren't so obvious, and I totally get that. But there are some things that are obvious on the paperwork, and some things that are obvious that we can see also on the block. So let's look at that. So we have 1 point of tension, right? And what that means is that we've hung a towel or a garment or something on a peg or pinned it to the wall or something, and there's just 1 point of tension right there, right? And then we have gravity, and gravity is just pulling the towel down, and the folds and the wrinkles that are set in place are there with only those 2 factors. So with that, we'll have things that sit behind, like this whole section here is behind. We have this area that's behind, this is behind, and then this is in front, but this is also behind. So we can also see that this is the highest point over on this side, and this is the lowest point. And what we're talking about is highest point here and lowest point down here somewhere. So high being the highest point on the block of the thickness that you have. So for this area here, which is this area here, This is high and this is low. Over here, this one is actually kind of low compared to this area here because this is where it's billowing, right? So it's heading off in two different directions. But it's still higher than this area here and this area here. So what we could do from the get-go is we could clean this area here on our wood carving, and then we could just cut an angle from here to there. We'd have to redraw the artwork, but it's a lot faster to do it that way because otherwise you'd have to go into each one of these lines and start cutting individual depths. So it's a lot of work, but you know, a lot of people do not want to remove their artwork, and I'm totally with you. If you don't want to do that, go for it. But in this particular lesson, what I'm going to do is clean this area out here. You can see it when I do it. And then I'm going to cut straight into the block, creating an angle from here to here. Basically from here to here. Alright? We'll then do the same thing basically from here to here on this section. Okay? So let's start that. Right now, we're just going to get some tools and start cutting. Start with our skew, and we'll just kind of create deeper stop cuts from the ones that we made earlier. The original stop cuts were at the top of the block, and now we're down in there, so we're going to create the same stop cut, only it's already currently lower. Take a super small skew here, get in there, straighten the towel out here, which is where it is on the artwork. And I'm going to get another tool for that area. Is it, but I'm going to use a smaller one. This will help a little bit. I think this area is just too large. Oh no, it's just right. Cool. So up in this direction here, it's a little more narrow, and we won't be able to get in there with conventional tools. All right. Pardon me. So now I'm just gonna clean a little bit of the area. Nope, that's not gonna help. That'll do it. And this will help me see better what I want. So now, what we want to do now is basically cut this whole section out, right here. And as expected, we will need to redraw the artwork. And we'll do that right now. For those of you that don't really want to draw it, you can put this back on or cut this part out of your artwork and place it right there and then redraw it with your metal stylus, indenting the wood and then redrawing it with your pencil. That's totally fine as well. I think I might be able to just get this done. So we'll just put a basic line there, go to there, round this up to here, carry this one through to around here, carry this one up to a halfway point here, and then we'll carry this down, and then it goes up. So there we go, more or less redrawn. So now let's do so this presents a new thing to think about. The center of this towel here is pretty far back into the wood, and that means that it's hanging from here and you have some flaps in front, but this one here is maybe sitting closer to the wall. So what that means is that we can still cut this whole section off, this whole section to here into the wood like we did here, but when we do that, we're going to have to push this middle section here to at least the level that we cut inward on the block here, and that's not a problem. We just have to make sure that we have enough wood, and I do, to create that depth in the middle of this towel. That's just looking ahead a bit, just to make sure you have what you need as you head toward completion. So now we have some nice depth here. We can take it a little further. Just clean this out a little bit here. So now we have our depth here that we want, and you can see that it's rounded right here. It's higher here than it is here, so it's kind of a rounded effect here, and we're just going to cut that out so that it's a complete flat surface right here. And then we're just going to redraw our artwork again. So we'll look at that. We have this one already in place. I already have this one in place. So we just carry this one through and round it a bit right there at the end. Bring it into place. And then we just kind of put a line right here to make it easier in our heads. And then this one flows back up again. So we're really back in place already. And we've hacked off a bunch of material that we wouldn't have to painstakingly go in there and remove. So now that we have those cuts in, let's consider creating that center depth. So number one, take your skew and you follow this line in the center here, because we know that this flap here is higher than this middle section. So we're just going to stop cut that area, following your line best you can. And then we're going to go to the other side, and we can start from the top, because we know that this fold here is higher than this fold and this fold, so that we know, because this line goes and it stops on this line, showing that it's below this height here. So let's go and cut that one. And if you have any questions about what I just said, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to help you out with that. Yeah, the mirror image is not my fault. There's nothing I can do. Facebook doesn't give me a way to do that. Sorry about that. After I download the video and repost it, I can switch it, but there's nothing I can do about the mirror image. I wish there was. Okay, so I am right-handed. Diana makes a great point there. I'm right-handed, so I hope that doesn't hurt you guys too much. So let's just make a rounded edge. I'll just take my my number 8 4mm and put it in here because it's a good gouge to make a nice little rounded corner there. Okay, so now what I've got here is cuts here, and over into here. So what's going to happen, and I'll do it right now to show you, what's going to happen is that this one here is also going to drop, right? Because it's on that angle. So we'll need to push it down too. So I'll show you what we're doing here. So this is going to drop even lower, and we can do that as we start to remove material from this section. So now that we've cut our stop cuts in on these areas here, let's remove some of what we know is furthest away. Just creating a little depth so we can remove it off of the stop cut. There we go. We go back to the gouge now, and it just comes free. I know that I want a lot of depth here, so I'm going to cut kind of deep. So when you're creating your folds like these, it's easy to get lost, but it really does help at the beginning if you make these cuts and redraw your artwork, because then you can at least take your depths down to match those two angles. We know that this line goes pretty straight, right? We know it goes from here to the edge that we created and just kind of goes straight up until it stops right there. So we know that this area here still needs to be removed, and the best way to do that is probably with a rotary tool, but I tried to keep to carving to the best of my ability. So we're going to get our 4mm gouge in here, and we're going to create a pocket that we can just kind of cut out of there. There we go. And then we could take a super small skew, get some more stop cuts in there. And we'll just remove that, but having cut it pretty deeply on the stop cut, you can just kind of get in there and pull it out of there. It's been cut here, here, and here on all sides, so it's really just sitting in there. That's why you can just kind of pull it out. Okay, so now we have a pretty good hole there that allows us to see that. Now what we want to do is do a little more cleaning up here to create depth. So we'll stop cut again, deeper. and then we'll cut it out again. And now I'm going to try to match some depth here. You see that in the artwork we have this fold coming here, and it's, until we get to a detail point, it's as high as the block, right? As high as the block. But we know that the fold underneath it is lower. So we cut that angle to match that. So then under that is the final part of it, and it's even lower than that. So we know that we can cut this whole section right here to approximately the depth of our inner cut in the middle. So to achieve that, what we'll do is we'll go back to this cut here, and we'll make it a slight bit deeper. All around its edge. And then what we'll do is we'll go in from the top here and remove some of it up to that stop cut. And you can probably already see that, give you some better focus, you can see that it starts to make sense, because we want to keep this we're going to keep this area as is good for the artwork. We want to keep this area, which is here, and we want this area here lower, so we create the stop cut right here, and then we cut parts of this section down to match this middle depth. Does that make sense, guys? Alright, so let's keep up with that. A little more depth here now that we've taken some off. And now we'll go back again and remove some more, and I'll use a gouge for that. 8mm. Okay, I understand. Okay, 8mm from corner to corner gives us a good cutting distance. Now we'll just use the skew again to clean the area. So now you can see that it's starting to match better. Once you get this middle section to start to cut away from the other areas and create your one of your furthest depths, it starts to make more sense. So go back to the gouge and clean this area a bit. Okay. Take out some of those lines that were there from the cuts. Get another chisel here to clean. That's too big as well. Let me just use this again. Maybe this one. Okay, this is better. So this is a number 8. It's a little flatter than the other one. Okay, so now what we want to do is to start to cut the other areas. We know that this area here is cut away, so we put a stop cut in there, and we'll carry through with it to the outside. We know that this section here, right here, is left over from removing part of the block, which is right here. So we're just going to cut that off, and at the same time we'll end up cleaning it a bit and making it more clear in our minds what we're after. So we just remove that section. There we go. And now we'll carry through with this one as well. It's kind of sloping toward us, and so we want to shore it up nice and flat, and then also carry through with not as deep a cut, but with deep enough. So now we're there. Let's go ahead and cut this section. Try not to cut too much of your edge here. I did some here. We'll drop in the block and fix that, but try not to cut too much because we're going to round this area here to join the outside of the towel. But a lot of this towel will go away because we're going to be bending it towards the left, so somewhat doesn't matter. Let's cut here. And now, like we did over here, we're going to cut some of this away. Start off with little bits so our mind's eye can see where we're headed. And we'll do the same here. I think you can already see that the depth that we currently have is not quite enough, because taking these down has brought us right to the edge of where we're at the moment. So we'll just cut a little bit of that out just to clean it. So now that we have these cuts in place, we can start to round them, but let's go back and just try to shore up things that we know need to be cut away. You'll see that I naturally just turn the chisel over right side up and upside down consistently. I get straight here, but now I turn it over to get that point in the corner. You can do that as well. Cut here, cut some more depth in there, then we just remove it. There are tools that can remove this area. This is a super tiny 11. It's got a super tiny gouge. So I can get this in there and remove that section. in the end, this is really kind of just detail. You do this stuff at the end. Okay, so now we have some depths cut. And so if you can get to this point where you got, oh, okay, I can see it. I got this area, then I cut here, then I cut here, then I cut here, and get them in. Then you can go back and do the other areas. Like, okay, all right, cool. Let's got that. So let's do this one. So I'll turn the chisel over again and get a tiny cut in there. We cut it out. Then we'll have our depth understandings, right? And you can return at any time at that point to start removing that. So you can see the depths have been created, right? So we also know that this flap here on the right, the right hand side, sorry if that's not right for you, but the right hand side for me is underneath this flap, because this line goes all the way to the top and these lines don't go all the way to the top, so we know this is sitting on top. So let's go ahead and get our skew chisel and cut that line. And now what we can do is a slightly different cut than we've done before, which is to cut into the block on this flap here. So you can either use a skew chisel, you can use a number of different chisels. You can just get a gouge. Please stop doing that. You just get a gouge and hack this off right there. You can do that. You can also use your skew chisel to clean it out methodically. And also, as a byproduct, you'll get some really clean lines. You can do it that way too. We'll also be rounding this section. It's going against the grain, so I need to go this way. This can round in this direction. And you can turn the chisel in your hand to create that rounded edge. You just follow the contour that you want to create or is already present. Alright, so that's done. Now what I'd like to do is to go ahead and cut more depth. Hopefully that's not too boring for you guys. I need to get more depth in order to create again. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to use a gouge to just hack this material out. Get a drink of water real quick. So The more depth I get here, the easier it'll be to work. Okay, got a little more depth in there now. A little bit of cleanup on the sides. Alright, again, now we have some room to work. Okay, so now that we have no more area, we can go back and start to remove this. So we're going to try to leave this around this height and this height too. So a good way to start to clean that up is with a gouge. And you can take your gouge and start to round that section because it's not flat, right? We know that there's a bit of a rounded billowing to it, so we can start to round these areas. Get our skew in here again. Clean this area. Create more depth here. And we'll bring it down a bit too. Try not to get too mired down in areas that are really just detail. So you've cut your depths, you cut all your depths on all your angles, then you go on to cutting specific areas, and then you do all of those, and then you go back and refine. So if you do any one area completely, likelihood of you having to go back and redo it is pretty strong. So just try to move all over the project as much as you can. So now we know that this area here needs to be removed. So we're going to go do that here. And to do that, we're going to use our skew to take this edge here down lower where we know it is. So our initial cut was great, but with the greater depths that we now have and more refinement, we need to bring it down again. And it is rounded, but we're not going to go too crazy about that at the moment. So now we have to remove the area. So we start with our stop cut up on the top. And we don't go to the very edge. We turn to remove. And another stop cut for more depth. And we'll use a gouge now. And you can see it's starting to take shape. So we'll go from the side here now, cleaning it and dropping it a little further. Okay, now we'll stop cut the area below it. Clean it out a bit, matching it up. Okay. Now we're going to shore up this area here because it looks separate right now. This looks separate from this, and we know that it's just part of the same towel. So we're just going to round it and clean it. Another stop cut here to shore it up. Now it's all clean there. We're going to round this entire edge now. Sorry, I get a hold of it. Cut that debris out. Okay, now that that's done, we can push this edge here downward. And now what we need to do is a number of things, but now we have most of our depths in place. I'm going to start to round the towel. But first this keeps bothering me here, so I'm gonna round it as well. Okay, so we can see that our depths are working out pretty well there. Let's round some of the towel up here. We'll use our skew again just to take off little bits to get our mind's eye in the right place. Again, I'm just turning the tool as I cut to help me create the contour that I'm looking for. And what we're looking for is the sides of the towel are moving away from us and heading toward the wall or going deeper. So we're just trying to create that. The skew is a great tool for that. So you can see that I'm cutting right on this corner that we've created because it has to be rounded there too. And we are removing some of the work we did, but it's okay because we're just rounding it, and we can always cut deeper and recreate what we've already done since it's already now here in front of us. We know we can go here now too and bring it under this fold. Around the other side too. Alright, I'm just continuing. Alright, let's do this side now. So this area here is pretty flat because there's a lot of the towel present there. So we know that so much of this towel, maybe from around here somewhere, so this whole section is heading off to the left, right? So I'm going to take a gouge and I'm going to take that area mostly off, around that area. Just guesstimate is fine because you'll have a lot of detail work to do. Just cleaning it up, right? So, and it's on a curve, so you can kind of just take it down. So you can continue to put back in your cut lines here. It helps you to keep it in mind. You can see now I need to remove a lot of this middle section again and again. And I need a really small veiner, but I don't have one here, so I'll just use the skew and keep removing. So now you can see that it's shaping okay. Now we're going to take the other side here and push it to the right. And we know that the towel is at its lowest point here because this is where it's being pinned or pegged. So we know that this high area here and this high area here needs to go down. So we're going to cut that. And yes, you can do it right from the get-go if you want, but sometimes it's really better to do it toward the end, because then you see everything you need to see. So you can basically taper from here to here now. So yeah, there's a lot of repeat work, but it never bothers me. I like it all. So if you don't like repeat work, then you can try to shortcut to the end, and it works for you, go for it. But making a lot of the cuts that I created will help you see in future projects the whole path. We know again that this piece here goes under here, so we're going to cut that to match. And round the top. Recut this section and push it under. Okay, so now what's left is to round these areas in here to make it look like it's round. Right now they're pretty, the depths are correct, but the roundness of it isn't really achieved. So we'll do that now. The skew chisel highest end down, we can get in here, clean these edges and round them. Now what you can do, if you don't want to carve it, well, first of all, if you want to carve it, you can get in here with a number 11 and have it be small, like a 3mm, and you can get into these small areas here and just put in a basic oval cut in there. When you do that, it rounds up that intersection nicely. Do it here too. It's a really small one, so you gotta be careful. Take out just enough to get in there, and then here as well. Or you can get in there with a Dremel. Let me find one here real quick. What's great about the micro motor, it's so simple, it's so fast to remove bits. It's fantastic. So you can get in here and just remove this area. And you can see that these edges, the inner edges here, are nice and round, so you can just get in there with a small skew and cut away any debris. So now those are nice. And this section here, And we want to round this one small area here. Okay, so that's going to be about it, guys. We've achieved what we started out to do, and it's really just a matter of cleanup at this point. So on Sunday on Instagram, I'll do another live feed starting from here, and it'll really just be a matter of getting it all nice and clean and pretty. But we got all the depths in, we got all the folds in, and there it is, another folding tutorial. So if we have time, maybe we'll just do a little staining as well, see if we can't add a little color and a little shadow to it. Alright, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. Bye.